point during our existence, we likely think there must be more to life than this. And the thing is, there is. That's what this series, This Is Life, is all about.
When we slow down long enough to ask ourselves the questions about life, purpose, connection, we often find the things that we're chasing never really satisfy.
We are bombarded with things telling us what life should be like. What is success? What should you desire? But what if the things that we think are important are actually distractions from the things that really matter?
And what if the life we're looking for isn't found in having more, but understanding more? More about who we are, more about who God is, and what facts are absolute.
We invite you to an evening of worship with Rihanna now. It will be a night where you can honestly and sincerely worship the Lord together with other women. Book your ticket, bring your friends, and come sit at His feet.
There comes a moment when you stop waiting for permission, when the quiet strength inside you becomes a bold voice. That is this moment. A space to grow, to lead with courage, to be sharpened by others who carry vision, faith, and fire. You were made to shape the future, not someday, now. Join us on Saturday, August 16th at Doxadeo, Brooklyn. Come be a part of what God is stirring in women who dare to lead.
Life doesn't always go as planned. Late, stressed, frustrated. Alarm didn't go off, coffee spilled, traffic crawls, deadlines loom, hearts race. We run from one thing to the next, trying to do it all and trying to be it all. But in the rush, we miss it. A child's laughter, a friend's smile, the beauty in the ordinary, the whisper of God in the stillness. Life was never meant to be a blur. It was meant to be lived. So stop. Breathe. Look around. Don't miss it.
Hello. Ah, there we go. Was that awkward? That was deliberate, I promise. That was really deliberate. It's a joke. Can I ask you to be honest? Who looked at their watch and saying, what is going on? What is happening? This is so weird. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Because I am a very, very impatient person. This would have irritated me to bits. In fact, I was such an impatient person from a very, very young age. If I didn't get the stuff that I wanted immediately, I would literally throw a fit. Imagine that little kid stomping their feet in their hands? That was me. It was so bad that my parents, the mocking type of parents that they are, called me, and this is obviously Afrikaans, but called me Kan nie wag nie, de Waal. That was literally my name for, I think, more than like 3 years. That's literally what they called me. They were like, Kan nie wag nie, kom, Cool. That was my parents. No wonder I am who I am. Impatience. I think I'm not the only person, right? I think a lot of us are impatient. And it's not without warrant, because our life is very hurried. There's a lot of stuff going on. Annelies said it in the Afrikaans sermon. Usually when we greet someone, we'll go like, hey, how are you doing? No, good, very busy. Oh, okay, great. And then you go. Because we are so busy. Our lives are so fast-paced. And the funny thing is, we have all these conveniences. We have all this technology and this profound engineering and ways to do things, and yet we are still hurried. I'm going to tell you some flaws that I have, and I think some of you might associate with me. The number of times that I wanted to throw a phone simply because it didn't load the website fast enough. Like, it was late with 5 seconds. Or it didn't open up the app. Or I couldn't send that email for some apparent reason. Or, and I'm guilty of this, it's a true story, I've paid people to stand in line for me. I've bribed people with physical money to stand in line for me. Because my wife and I, when we go shopping and we want to be done, we go to the cashiers and then we will split up and look for the shortest row, right? Okay? And I don't know if this has ever happened to anybody, but there's no short row, everything is long, and then you're sitting there, or you're standing there and you're waiting, and then you see there's an old tannie there, and she's taking out her cash and her glasses and everything, and you're just like, oh, this is going to take forever. Or, I'm of an opinion, if, God forbid, I get robbed one day on the street, I would try and negotiate with the robber to say, listen, I will go and draw all of my money in my bank for you, just leave my license desk and my cards so that I don't have to go through that admin, because it's going to waste a lot of time. We've got all of this stuff. Why is it that we feel that we're never fast enough? Why are we constantly looking for ways to improve our efficiency? Why are we constantly looking to do things better, faster, quicker, so that it goes like this? And then we call ourselves Christians, and we wonder why the world says you're not reflecting God. You are not showing us the love of Christ. But we're like, no, we're busy with the church. We've got all this stuff. We've got this, and we've got this, and we've got this. You can get part of this. You can register for this. You can do all of this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And you hurry and hurry and hurry and hurry. And then your connection with the people around you is, oh, it's going great. Cool. Lekker. Bye. If I read the Bible, I get something completely different. I get a different characteristic. And today, I want to challenge you with one of my favorite scriptures. And I want to challenge you in the case of a hurried life. Read with me Romans 12, verse 2. It says, do not be conformed by the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. This scripture is saying the world is fast-paced. Everything is going faster and quicker exponentially. And He's saying, listen, stop. You have to renew your mind. You have to rethink about this, because that is not the nature of our God. It's not our nature of Christ. It's not the nature that we need to be. In fact, if you were here last week, Emil spoke about posture. What is the posture that you need to have as a Christian? When we follow the example of Jesus, you get something completely different. A famous theologian, I forget his name, said, if you can summarize Jesus' character and His life on earth in one word, it would be relaxed. Are you relaxed? I'm not. But that's the posture that Jesus Himself had. the King of all kings, the Lord of all lords, the guy that created everything and solved all of our problems, he wasn't on a mission to change everything, and nothing distracted him. He was relaxed. Jesus was present in the moment, all the way in. In fact, I want to almost make a claim that half of his ministry was based on distractions, based on complete stuff that wasn't where he was going, but along the way came a bunch of stuff. There's so many stories like that. I'm just going to give you two ones. In Mark 5, we read about a friend of Jesus that calls up on him and says, listen, my daughter is dying. She's very, very sick. Please come. And then Jesus goes. And on the way, he's got a whole procession around him, and a woman that was bleeding touched him so that she can be healed. And Jesus stopped everything. And he said, somebody touched me. Who was it? And she comes and she says, listen, Lord, it was me. I was bleeding, but I had faith that if I would only touch the hem of your skirt or whatever, then I will be healed, and I want to be healed. And what did Jesus do? Well, he said, listen, lady, you have to wait your turn. I'm going to that girl's house first, and then, no. He stood there and he said, because of your faith, you are healed. Another story in John 11 is where friends of his, Lazarus, was busy dying. And his sisters called on to Jesus and said, listen, you have to come. So what did Jesus do? He climbed in his Ferrari and he drove the highway and stopped at Lazarus' house? No. Where he was, in the town where he was, he stayed still for 2 more days. That's a little bit too relaxed, if you ask me. Lazarus died before Jesus left the town where he was. Relaxed. A posture of being slow. This is the challenge. Because when I look at my life, I've mentioned this a lot of times in my life. I'm thinking, yeah, if I can just have 1 more hour every day, or 2 more hours, or 3 more hours, then I will be able to fit in everything that I want. In fact, our lives have changed a lot. Did you know that before Edison invented the light bulb, the average time that people slept was 11 hours? We're lucky if we get 8. Did you know that lectures, sermons, and discussions and debates back in the olden days could last up to 3 hours, where people were there, present, listening to everything? Imagine you have to sit through a 3-hour presidential debate. Now, and I'm guilty about this, I complained about it 2 weeks back to some of my friends. I told them, listen, I'm frustrated with YouTube because 2 times the speed of a YouTube video is too quick for me. I can't focus on it, so I have to go 1.5, but that's too slow for me. How ridiculous is that? And the funny thing is, 10 minutes into 1.5x speed, I'm already bored again. Sundays, as a kid, everything was closed. You would be lucky if you would find a spaza shop open. Now we're sitting with Chickers and Spa that close at 8 o'clock at night. Our lives have changed. So to renew your mind is almost a challenge to say, listen, you can't think of ways to optimize your life. You have to slow down. You have to simplify. You have to minimize the stuff so that you can actually create space. It's a massive challenge for us. It's even more so for us as Christians because our spiritual journey is being impacted more and more and more. Listen to what Dallas Willard said. He says, hurry is the great enemy of spiritual life in our day. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. The great philosopher Carl Jung said, hurry is not of the devil, hurry is the devil. There was a study that was done with 20,000 Christians in America regarding this pace and the speed of life today, a few years back. And Michael Zaccarelli was one of the guys that commented on the results that they received. And here's the cycle that they found out. They said it may be the case that, number one, Christians are assimilating a culture of busyness, hurry, and overload, which leads to two, God becoming more marginalized in Christians' lives, which leads to three, a deteriorating relationship with God, which leads to four, Christians becoming even more vulnerable to adopting secular assumptions about how to live, which leads to five, more conformity to a culture of busyness, hurry, and overload. And then the cycle begins again. This is the challenge that we have as Christians, that our lives are so busy that we are neglecting our spirituality, and we are neglecting our spiritual health, and then obviously our mental health, our physical health, everything is being impacted. And God is challenging us today to say, listen, renew your mind. Do not conform to this busyness. Do not conform to this hurry and this overload. Ronald Rolheiser said, today, a number of historical circumstances are blindly flowing together and accidentally conspiring to produce a climate within which it is difficult not just to think about God or to pray, but simply to have interior depth whatsoever. Man, that hits me. We are distracting ourselves into spiritual oblivion, pathological busyness. Distraction and restlessness are major blocks today with our spiritual lives. We need to conform to the standards of God, to the posture that Jesus Christ had of slowness and space, and be allowed to be distracted. Be allowed to be in the moment, to be present, and not be in a rush like this. How do we do it? Well, one of the major scriptures that we've had for this Wisdom Life series is Matthew 11. It says the following, verse 28 to 30. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how he does it. Posture. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. In fact, we have something of this to offer the world. If the world can realize how much better off we are if we are not hurried, if we have the time to stay in the moment and be present for all of the things that are happening, to be able to be distracted, it is so much more and so much more beneficial for our lives. In fact, I've got a testimony about that specifically. Believe it or not, this handsome, good-looking guy took 31 years to find his wife. And it took me 4 more years to marry her. Because when I was young, I realized I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. And I did. I'm still making a lot of mistakes. But there's one thing that I told my parents, I told myself, and I told God that I want to do right. And I want to do this thing right. The rest, I don't care. I want to do marriage right. And that's why it took so long, because I was very picky. I was very peculiar. I was very strange things that I wanted out of a marriage. And I wanted to be right myself. I wanted to be in a space where I know that I can be the man that my wife needs. And that is why it took me so long. Where in your life do you need to slow down? Where in your life do you conform to the world and you realize that, hey, I have to stop this? Where in your life is a place where God wants to distract you with His goodness, His will, His purpose for your life, and you are busy running the opposite direction? The band can come up. Are you tired, worn out, burnt out on religion? We have to slow down. We have to realize that God wants us to slow down, to stop the hurry. Now, practically, how does that look in the world of today? Because I know what you're going to say. Life is happening. The stuff is moving forward. Well, practically, the best advice that I can say is you need to plan it. It's not going to happen in the spur of the moment immediately. It's not going to, you're suddenly going to realize, oh, I need to slow down. Well, maybe if you're lucky. But you need to plan it. You need to put it in your calendar. Maybe take some meetings out and place some time to pause and to stop and be deliberate in not being hurried. Maybe set a phone bedtime so that you're not busy up until 11, 12, 1 o'clock at night scrolling TikTok or reading the news. Put your phone away at a certain time. Be deliberate in saying, listen, I'm going to go to the shops now and I am going to choose the longest row at the cashiers. That's going to frustrate me. Choose it. And if somebody's behind you and they look like they're busy or in a hurry, just say, you can go in front of me. And then they push like 3 trolleys in, you know. God's way of being funny. Ask yourself, when do you feel most rushed in your life? Go and reflect on that. And how can you change those moments? What do you need to do beforehand so that that doesn't happen? What habits do you need to keep? And what habits do you need to let go of that is busy hurrying up your life? How can you actually slow down your body? Have you ever tried not to use the phone while you're eating? Sit, put off the TV, and just eat. Have you ever just tried walking slowly? Short legs like me. It's really frustrating. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how He does it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I want to end off with a story. We're going to sing a song. Most of you should know it. It's a song from Matt Redman. And he wrote the song specifically because God was challenging him about his hurried pace in life. So this song is a response. And I want to challenge you. Sit where you are. Let's listen to this song. And if you want to stand up or you want to sing along,